Let's get this party started.
Coverage tight, spotlight on tomorrow. Who you with? Trust, you'll be delighted that you followed. At Phirst Contention, the invention. We debate sports, of course we should mention. What's that? We cover games, we don't play suspensions. We 100, so if your star's missing, we let you know your squad surely gone fishing. We never fish though, no, not our motto. We sport on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention.
I said, hola, senors and senoritas. Welcome to another episode of Phirst Contention. I am one of your hosts, Marvin Banks, here with my esteemed colleague, Ty Sosina.
Salutations, folks. Like Marv said, welcome back. Glad to have you. And now let's jump right back into it here. College football, we've asked for the longest time a playoff system. And the Decisive 12 has unveiled their latest top four for this playoff. I mean, here's the question. I mean, are they getting it right? Are we doing this the right way? Or do they go back to the BCS system? What do you think?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways from having a football committee is transparency. You know, the ability to see what's going on and what's coming in and what's going out with the football subcommittee, which is great for football fans and college football fans like myself. So we see the eye test. We know who should be in our Final Four. We don't have to rely on the computers and different things like that. That's one of my biggest takeaways. And it also empowers the schools. It empowers the universities to go out there and play some of these big conference games and not play some of these cupcakes in the non-conference schedule. So it takes away from the big business. For example, Ohio State losing early to Virginia Tech, now having a chance to maybe enter into that Final Four compared to other teams that might have taken a little bit easier on the schedule. And the idea of how to improve it. I think conference championships.
Absolutely.
I think the conference championship, whoever win the conference championships, let them bang, then have the football subcommittees put them in the appropriate BCS playoff system from there. What do you think about that, Ty?
I mean, I agree. I echo your same sentiments. More importantly, I think this is better than the old BCS system where obviously you're dealing with more of your top two. You add a few teams and they're talking about expanding to an 8-team playoff. But for now, it's good. They're looking at a bunch of factors. They're not being biased. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, week by week, and, there's still enough season left for it to still play itself out and for teams still to kind of, drop out and other teams move in.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting away from the big business. I don't want to see a 13 seed versus a 25 seed in a Fiesta Bowl.
Absolutely.
Let me see, a number 5 versus a number 3 seed, or let me see something like that instead of having all these big businesses come in and say, I'm gonna take Michigan even though they were 7-5 compared to another seed. So it definitely empowers the schools and universities, like I said, which is great for business moving forward. But now with the Final Four and the BCS coming out with their Final Four and their top 6, who do you have in your top 6 and who do you have in your Final Four moving forward?
I mean, I believe, you've got Mississippi State at 1 they had. I mean, that's correct. They're undefeated. They're doing their thing. Mm-hmm. Now, you do have Oregon at 2, a personal favorite of mine, but I don't think Oregon belongs at 2. I think Florida State, although the schedule isn't as hard as everyone else's, should be number 2. Like you said last week, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. They're the champs, so while their schedule isn't as hard as everyone else, they are getting everyone's best shot. And Jameis Winston, for all his time he's been in college, he still has not lost a college football game, which is amazing. I think it's okay to have Oregon checking in at 3. And then as far as the 4th team goes, I think you got to move Alabama in there over TCU. I mean, they did put up 82, but look at the strength of schedule.
I agree with you. I think Mississippi State, is definitely number 1. Florida State, I still have them at number 2. I think if you're an undefeated Power 5 conference team, I think you definitely have a shot to make to the playoffs. So I keep Florida State number 2. My number 3 team is Oregon. Even though they lost to Arizona at home, I still believe in Oregon a little bit better than everybody else. But instead of Alabama, I'm going to put Texas Christian University as my 4th seed. Okay. And the reason being is because even though they gave us 61 points on the road to Baylor, it was still at Baylor. And they were up by a lot until Baylor made that miraculous comeback for them too as well. But the team that has the most to gain is Alabama. They play Mississippi State this week, and they also play Auburn in the Iron Bowl in 3 weeks from now in Alabama. So they definitely have the power to definitely move up in the standings. But who do you have the outside that's looking in that can creep their way up into that Power Six?
Well, I said I like TCU, and I still have them on the outside looking in. Look at Alabama's schedule. The reason why I think it's safe, to kind of put them up there now is because moving forward, they still have some very, very tough games that may not work in their favor, not to mention if they do get to an SEC championship game. And as long as TCU keeps rolling, they've got the offense, prowess to keep rolling here and get back in. I mean, Arizona State's doing some good things over there too. But, I'm the biggest fan of Texas Christian.
I feel you. You know what? Why don't we ask our former athlete about that?
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for kicking it over to me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Shed's Block. Strive higher every day. Now we're talking about college football playoffs. I mentioned this before in our seasons before when we talked about the beginning of this. I think it's great for college football. You're having a system in place that can not only give teams a shot at winning a championship, but can help alleviate people from saying, oh, we could have won this year. You're actually getting an actual chance to pit it out and see who's the top team of the year. And I love it. Of course, you're going to have a lot of people saying, they think they should be here and they think they should be in the top four. It's going to be changing every other week. But it's a start. And I believe, eventually they may add some new teams, some more teams to the playoffs. But 4 teams is a good start. We may get up to 8. I won't say getting to 16 is an ideal situation. I would rather it stay between 8 and 4, and that way you still have maybe a top team from each conference to play. But the way that it is this year, I'm looking forward to see how it goes. You got the top 4 teams in the BCS right now. You got Mississippi State, you got Oregon, you got Florida State, and now you have TCU. I think that order is a little, messed up. Like you guys mentioned, Florida State is getting a little disrespected right now. Now, they won a national championship, and they're still undefeated. So I don't even think they should be number 2. I think they should still be number 1. But it's the SEC, and Mississippi State is undefeated. However, I do believe that Mississippi State is going to end up with a loss by the end of this year. They got Auburn next and Ole Miss at the end of the year. That's a tough road. And shout out to Oregon. No, actually, shout out to Kalen Clay out in Utah, who made the momentum play of the week by dropping that ball right before he scored a touchdown. They could have been up 14-0 Utah against Oregon. But because he dropped that, Oregon got a touchdown, and next thing you know, the floodgates were open. End of the score was 51-27. Who's to say they would have won anyway, but the momentum shift was major right there. Not to throw fire on the flame for you guys, but God, man, you can't be doing stuff like that, especially because you're from the knucklehead school of where Deshaun Jackson went. You should have learned from him from doing that in high school, college, and the pro level, not to do that again. But you see what happens. Oregon's up there at number 2, but I do believe they're going to run into some situation where they're going to have to play Arizona State. Don't know how that's going to play out for them yet, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. I still think TCU is a really good team, but they got a tough schedule as well. They may run into Baylor again. Who knows? We'll see how that plays out. But the way that things are shaped in right now, I believe it's going to be a good battle. It should be a good championship game. Once that January 1 bowl starts to roll around, we'll see how that goes. But back to you guys.
Appreciate you, Steve, from the former Big Ten captain himself. Side note, shout out Minnesota, number 25 in the poll.
They're creeping on up little by little.
We see you, Minnesota. We see you. Ohio State on the horizon. We'll see how that works, but enjoy it while it lasts.
Exactly.
Let's move from the college field to the professional field. Out in the wild, wild west of the NFC, we've got the Arizona Cardinals, currently the number 1 seed with the best record in football. Carson Palmer goes down after getting that contract extension. The question is, can the Cardinals, do they still have what it takes to win that division without Carson Palmer?
You know what, Ty? I still think they do. And the reason being is because when you think about what else is happening in the NFC West, Patrick Willis is done for the rest of the year. Navarro Bowman is still yet to come back from his injury. Up in Seattle, Brandon Mebane, a defensive tackle, their run stuffer, is also done for the rest of the year. So what does that mean? That still means that the Cardinals still have a chance. But when you look at the Cardinals, they are an average team by stats-wise. I mean, they're only 24th in offense, only 15th in defense. Carson Palmer has an 11-3 touchdown and interception ratio. So what makes this team good? Mistake-free football. They have a plus 12 turnover ratio that they have going for them, tied with the Patriots. So when you think about synergy, when you think about what's going on out there, head coach Bruce Arians is bringing football exactitude to the football team.
Ooh.
That would be Marvin's big word of the week right there.
Woo-hoo.
Exactitude right there. But he also has talent and he also has leadership on both sides of the ball. When you have Pat Pete on one side and when you have Larry Fitz on the other side. So I definitely think they still have enough to still win that division.
Again, like you said, it's great coaching. I mean, the battle should be closed as far as NFL Coach of the Year goes.
Exactly.
What Arians is doing with this team is unbelievable. And you said it, they don't necessarily run the ball well. The numbers, they're not popping out, but they win and they don't beat themselves, which is important inside this league. I mean, to be honest, with the loss of Willis, and while Seattle has lost Mebane, I think Seattle can creep up because I think Seattle has the strongest thing going for them right now that helps to close out a season and into the postseason, which is a running game.
Beast mode?
Beast mode. We just saw him hit the end zone 4 times, and if you can't contain beast mode, you've got Russell Wilson running out. They may not have the receivers they used to, but Russell makes these guys do just enough to get the win, and he also doesn't make too many mistakes.
Exactly. So I even though Seattle has a chance to creep up, I still believe that Arizona is too far ahead. So I believe that Arizona can still win that division and still get the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. Now, when playoff time comes, can Drew Stanton lead them to a Super Bowl? I think that's another question, better left for debate. Going from one surprise team to the NFC to another surprise team in the AFC, Cleveland Browns doing pretty well on top of their division right now. Who's the biggest surprise right now? The franchise on the biggest come up, the Cleveland Browns or the NBA and the Sacramento Kings?
Now, the Sacramento Kings are doing a lot of good things, and you've got Boogie Cousins down there, standing out, kind of turning some heads. But for me personally, it's going to be the Cleveland Browns. We're talking about, a proud franchise in the past. Jim Brown, running back, one of the greats, been outspoken about this team and what they need to do to get to that next level. We talked about the Cardinals and how they don't make mistakes and necessarily beat themselves. Brian Hoyer, getting it done at the helm. They've been looking for a quarterback for the longest time. So for them to be at the top of this division with your Baltimore, Pittsburgh here and there, Bengals believe to have the best roster in the league, with some questions about your quarterback. And stacked up against the NFC West, this may now be the best division in football. So for them to be at the top of that division speaks volumes.
You know what? I couldn't agree more, but I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. When you think of the Cleveland Browns, the last time that they won a playoff game was 2002. The last time that last time they won a playoff game was 94. Last time they went to the playoffs was 2002. Mm-hmm. Do you remember who the coach was back in 94 when they won the playoff game?
No.
It was the hoodie. Bill Belichick himself.
Ooh, he gets it done.
And you know who the DC was? Tricky Nicky Saban.
Wow.
So that was a long time ago. But you talked about the hometown kid with Brian Hoyer. But also, think about the economy of the city. You have the LeBron James effect. He's coming back to Cleveland. The Browns are doing well. Ohio State is doing very well. Then you also got the Indians that's performing very well, too, in the MLB. So when you think about the city of Cleveland and how year-round that could be a winning city, when you bring in revenue, when you bring in franchise-changing players into the Cleveland area. But don't forget about the Kings. The early 2000s, late 90s Kings. C-Webb and White Chocolate coming down the court making people look foolish.
Feels like a long time ago.
It does feel like a long time ago, but the new owner, Vivek Ranadive, I think I'm saying his name right, but he's bringing some new things into the Kings culture, which I really like. He's bringing his statistics to the basketball court, using his stats to help out Rudy Gay and his shooting percentage. Last year, he was shooting 38%. This year, he's shooting above 50%.
Numbers.
Yeah, through the numbers of his stats. And he also brought in something unique and different. He brought Bali Night to the Sacramento Kings last year, which was different. It was unique. It was entertaining. So he's bringing that entertainment back into the city of Sacramento, into the Kings franchise. So even though the Browns are doing well, I like the Kings coming back with the new and innovative ideas. Now, did you hear about that? He might have a cherry picker on the team. He might implement a 4-on-5 strategy. 4 people on defense, 1 person at the end of the basket, just hanging out, just chilling, getting free baskets.
I've heard about this, and this will not work out in the NBA. But I mean, hey, he wants to try his hat at being a coach. It's fine with me.
And you know, anything could change. But when you think about cherry picking, you have to think about, you know, that's interesting. But think about tanking, and think about if an NBA team just tanked throughout the whole season. Do you think that's a good idea? Mark Cuban thought it was a good idea for the Oklahoma City Thunder to do so. But do you think that they should listen to his advice?
This is one of those ideas that you take to Shark Tank and everyone just rips it apart. Mark Cuban, I don't think he's even trying to be slick because we don't believe you need more people. This is obvious. He sees what's going on with Oklahoma City. He knows that they're, one of those top franchises in the West. And so he figures, if you guys are hurt, just take the season off, get someone back to health. That's a great option for someone who doesn't have talent or for someone who needs, another piece. I believe the time for the Thunder is now. You've got Westbrook and Durant in the prime of their careers. You got to win now. You don't take the time and kind of wait and try and get another piece and put it off. You are not the Spurs, and you don't have the same coach as Pop does. As Pop for the Spurs there. So I believe he's just trying to make this franchise kind of take it easy. So his Mavs, which are on the up and up, so they can make some serious moves out in the West.
Definitely think there was a little bit of tongue-in-cheek going on there when he was talking about that. But when you think about the idea of tanking, think about the idea of quitting, laying down, giving up. There's no hope. How do you tell a franchise mentally there's just no hope? Just take the whole season off. You can't do that. You can't do that as an NBA franchise, especially when you have 2 superstars like Westbrook and Durant. I mean, they're franchise-changing players. They're 2 of the faces in the NBA. So definitely tanking is not the idea. But in Philadelphia, Sam Hinkie is giving the one-finger salute to the NBA lottery system right now by his idea of not tanking, but not getting good players on the team too as well. With him playing a lot of rookies, him playing a lot of second-year players, and making sure he can get a higher draft pick to turn the team around. Causing this 2-year plan. Now, I don't know if this is going to work in the future, but I believe right now there are 4 college basketball teams that could beat the 76ers right now. Kentucky, Arizona, Duke, and Wisconsin. I want to see them play against the 76ers right now, and I guarantee you, in a 7-game series, those 4 teams could probably beat the 76ers right now.
Now, don't forget, players on the 76ers did play college ball themselves.
Yeah, but that was just like last year. So it wasn't like they have 10, 15 years inside the NBA. They're still a little bit wet behind the ears in the NBA right now. So I definitely think of the potential of tanking is something that the NBA draft lottery system needs to be changed, though, moving forward, because you can't have something like this moving forward because it's just bad basketball. It brings in a bad brand of basketball. Nobody wants to sit down and watch that all the time.
And absolutely, most importantly, in terms of bad basketball, you got to feel for the fans. I mean, Philadelphia is a proud town. Sports is so huge for this town. So to subject your fans to that, it's unforgivable, some would say.
Exactly.
But, the strategy, if it plays off, who knows? There could be some bright times ahead.
That's a big if. That is a huge if.
I'm just trying to keep the silver linings out here.
Potential is the one thing that could get a coach fired and get a GM fired. And in the city of Philadelphia, of brotherly love, they boo Santa Claus and Destiny Child. Remember that.
End of story.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve, I know you have a few thoughts on what Mark Cuban said. Let us know.
Thanks, guys. Once again, we're talking here at Shed's Block. Mark Cuban. You gotta love this guy, man. He's always talking crazy. He always has these ideas, but he's a great owner in my eyes, man. He's always a hands-on type of guy. And for him to throw this fire at Oklahoma City, obviously he's trying to make it better for his team by telling Oklahoma City, just go ahead and tank, try to get a player or whatnot so, Dallas can get a shot at going to the finals this year. But I don't think that's a strategy that the Thunder should use this year, pretty much because their window is really closing. LeBron James is still trying to figure things out in Cleveland. You got Derrick Rose over there. Whether or not he stays healthy throughout the whole season, who knows? But pretty much the NBA championship is up for grabs right now. All you got to do is kind of beat the Spurs, but they're getting older. And we say this every year, they're getting older, but it's still up in the air. And the Thunder can fight around and come back and get maybe an 8th seed in the West. It's going to be hard, but Durant and Westbrook are coming back around Christmas, so they still have a fighting chance of getting a playoff spot. And if you're facing the Thunder as an 8th seed in the NBA playoffs, you must be mad at the gods for putting you against that battle right there, because these guys are going to come out on fire. They're going to be ready to go. And like I said, I think his window for winning a championship with Kevin Durant and Westbrook is really closing. And if they think about tanking, I don't see that happening. But if they think about tanking, you may be in a situation where you may actually lose Durant, going back home to, the Wizards or whatever he's talking about with that situation. But tanking is a really hard situation. I particularly don't endorse it because I don't like losing, even though my fantasy team is really bad right now and everybody keeps giving me grief for it. Whatever. I don't endorse tanking because as a competitor, you want to win. Any game you play in, you want to win. No matter how much money you're getting paid, no matter what endorsement deals you have on the side, even though it's a pay-for-play league, you still want to win. You still want to compete. This is a job that you enjoy. You don't want to go out there and lose every time. I mean, for me, as a competitor, I would never want to be a part of the team that's tanking, just because I understand the rebuilding process, but I don't understand the fact that we have to lose every game and not even compete. That's not even fun. That makes you not want to come to your job and actually have fun and enjoy yourself. I don't want to see that happen, and I definitely don't think the Thunder is going to do that. But Mark Cuban, nice try. I don't think it's going to happen. Thunder still has a shot of making the playoffs, and I believe they might slip into that 8th seed, depending on how Westbrook and Durant come back after Christmas. But we'll see how that goes. But back to you guys.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate it. Appreciate the athletes' insight. Now we're going to go to the fan interaction part of a show called Wesports. First question comes in from Steve's father. He said, will Jadeveon Clowney play again this season?
I mean, he's got to be talking about, Houston Texans #1 overall pick. After last season, they've been excited. They want to see this man play, and they've seen him play for all of what? One game, one half?
Let's say like 20 minutes, something like that.
And it's got to be frustrating. And according to Houston Chronicle, he is questionable for the upcoming game Monday night against the Titans. Prime time, what better stage to kind of make your appearance? I mean, at this point, they're really not vying for a playoff chance, but they've got to want to know what they have in the #1 overall pick in Clowney. So I believe, with him being questionable for this next game and quite a bit of this season left, we will see him. We will see him so we can see him and J.J. Watt and Merciless and those boys, kind of get after it.
But you know what? There were red flags about Jadeveon Clowney before he was drafted. There was a lot of questions about his heart, about his effort, his last year at South Carolina. And those only illuminate now as he's now approaching the NFL, especially playing next to someone like J.J. Watt, probably the best defensive player in NFL right now. Him being a #1 overall pick, the #1 overall pick in this past year's draft, has only played one game. I don't think he plays again for the rest of the season.
Wow.
I think they just sit him down, get him better. Hey, just baby him, come back again next year.
A red shirt year in the pros, if you would.
Exactly, something like that.
Well, speaking of red shirt years, we're going to go over to the association. We've got a question from Patrice Wainwright. She wants to know, will Derrick Rose's health derail the Bulls' season?
You know what? I don't think so. I think they have already got used to D Rose not playing. But with the addition of D Rose, that puts them over the top into title contenders. That's their go-to scorer. That's the person down in the clutch that can get that go-to basket. You're down by 1, he can get that 2. He can take his man off the dribble. But when you have the addition of Paul Gasol, when you have other pieces around him like that, I think that it's easier for them to come back, and it's easier for them to make a playoff chase without Derrick Rose.
And I agree. I mean, you already talked about the additions. The last time the Bulls were dangerous in the playoffs, hashtag bench mob. Bench mob, bench mob, bench mob. You had players to back it up. So even if he is taking these few games out like he is, you're getting your bench more reps on the field. You've seen Eric Brooks. You know what Tom Thibodeau can do with point guards. They come in and they perform. And so when you sprinkle a little bit of Derrick Rose in there, not to mention you've got enough of a season in an 82-game basketball season for them to still get that chemistry. And all the pressure is not on him, so he's more fresh for that playoff push.
Exactly. And our last question comes from my little brother, Darius Banks, and he wants to know, should Kevin Love go to L.A. to the Lakers at the end of this season and opt out of his contract and join Kobe Bryant and the Lakers?
Now, a lot of things going on in Cleveland right now have been head-scratching. This would just be the latest. Kevin Love, you've already done this with Minnesota. The team wasn't winning. Year after year, you weren't in the playoffs. So granted, while it is the Lakers, these aren't the Lakers. You're going to go back to the same situation that you were in Minnesota, which is ironic because the Lakers were shipped out west in the past there.
You know what? And that brings me to my next point. He might as well go out to L.A. I mean, Los Angeles stole everything else in Minnesota. I mean, might as well go out there and join the Timberwolves and be the Timberwolves of the California League. But he's not the franchise-changing player that everyone is saying that he is. He was unable to get Minnesota into the playoffs. So why do you think that he could change L.A. with no pieces around him right now? I don't think that it would be a good fit for him right now.
Not to mention, it doesn't seem like he has the pieces needed upstairs in the office. And not to also mention, the elephant in the room. You're talking about leaving your chance playing with LeBron James, the best player in the league. I mean, how serious are you about this ring?
Not very serious at all.
All right. Well, that's all we have for today's episode, folks. We appreciate you all for watching. Don't forget, please do not forget, like the video, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and while you're at it, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
I'm Marvin Banks here with Ty, Sosina, signing off.
Trey's up.
Ride with Phirst Contention, that's full throttle in. We sport on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention. We sport on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention. Game face grit, like born for playoffs. Say it all in small time like payoff.